It's the Tuesday, January 6th edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you got through the morning okay. This morning's system, a very minor one in the grand scheme of things. Last evening, I did reduce our forecasted snowfall totals a little bit because the writing was sort of on the wall by last evening that everything had shifted just far enough to the south, and this was going to move through so quickly that it was going to be almost impossible to achieve the high end of our forecasted range. So we dropped the 4 inches and we allowed for mostly an inch or two, and that's about what we got. Here's a handful of storm reports called into the National Weather Service. Salem about 2 inches, 1.8 up in Newton Falls. Let's see, this is 2 inches down in Montgomery, PA. Wellsville, Ohio, about an inch. So, our adjustment last night was the right move, certainly, as we did reduce those totals. Things were slick this morning, as expected. But in the grand scheme of things, of course, a pretty minor storm. We just haven't had any snow for 6 weeks. So all of a sudden, an inch or two at rush hour, is a bigger deal than it might be otherwise. Notice the lollipop, as expected, down here across central Ohio. Some isolated 5 or 6 inch amounts in central parts of the state, but mostly it was about 3.5, 4 inches or so in the kind of the I-70 corridor with our clipper last night and early this morning. Well, we have a little bit of flurry activity still lingering out there this afternoon as I record this at around 2 p.m. Zooming in a little here. Some lake enhancement going on up along the lake shore on I-90, and there'll be a lot more of that as we go into tonight, certainly. But this is, again, mostly flurry activity in and around the Youngstown area, and especially down towards Pittsburgh. And yeah, it's cold outside this afternoon. Let's pull up the temperatures here, show you what's happening temperature-wise. We have 16 in Youngstown. Actually, 16 is a pretty common number throughout the Mahoning and Shenango valleys this afternoon. Wind chill values in the single digits above zero. It's not tremendously windy at all, but enough of a breeze to create a wind chill factor, certainly. So it's definitely an afternoon to bundle up. Pretty classic, January afternoon here in Northeast Ohio and northwestern parts of Pennsylvania. Let's show you the temperatures across much of the region here. I posted on social media this morning. It's always kind of interesting to see, especially when the Great Lakes are unfrozen, how when Arctic air masses descend, they modify once they hit the Great Lakes. So notice in Wisconsin this afternoon, it's in the single digits, and then you cross over Lake Michigan, and it's in the teens in Michigan. So, it's not exactly warmer, but it is a little more tolerable. That air crosses the unfrozen lake and modifies, and that has benefits for anyone downwind of the lakes. The air is not as harsh and not as purely Arctic as it is up here across the Midwest, where there's no big lakes to modify the air mass. But nonetheless, the Arctic air is on the move, and it is coming south and east. And tomorrow, it's going to be a harsh day tomorrow. Wind chill values probably don't get above zero tomorrow. Actual temperatures, not much of above 10. Midday and early afternoon, and may even drop into the single digits before the end of the afternoon during the day on Wednesday. And of course, we've been talking about the possibility of lake effect snow as we go into the day tomorrow, and I think this is looking more and more likely. Here's a look at the NAM model, North American model, simulated radar. We're going to start things off with the pre-dawn hours tomorrow, so 4 a.m., right along our Arctic cold front, a true Arctic front with the leading edge of the air mass that is straight out of the North Pole. Right along that front, here's a band of pretty significant lake-enhanced snow pushing south and east. So here at 4 a.m., it's not doing much locally yet, but as we get a little bit closer to sunrise, let's skip ahead a few hours here. Let me find where I want to be. Yeah, here's 6 in the morning. And although the band may have weakened some, I still think this is going to be a problem for the morning rush. The heart of this at around 6 might be around the I-80 corridor. This is not going to drop a tremendous amount of snow, but it could come down pretty heavily for a relatively brief period of time. And again, it's coming at a bad time of day. So especially I-80 and north, your morning commute can be a little bit tough tomorrow. If you're going to be on 224 or heading down into Columbiana County, I do think things can turn a little slick by about daybreak, but the conditions from 224 on south probably won't be quite as tough as they will be off to the north with that initial band coming through with the Arctic front. Now, as things get oriented over the lakes tomorrow, some pretty significant lake effect is going to start to get going. Here we are at noon tomorrow. Now, notice the main band with a Lake Huron connection, and then going over Lake Erie is kind of set up from Ashtabula County down through Crawford County and maybe clipping parts of Mercer County. That's kind of the main band, but I do think there'll be these, random streamers that do come off the lake tomorrow and some of these will have some real teeth to them as they come south and east. So although this doesn't look real impressive, our NAM simulated radar product here doesn't always do a great job of picking up the streamers of lake effect snow 24 hours out. So to kind of bottom line it for you here, Trumbull County is under a lake effect snow advisory through tomorrow evening. I would expect the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh to add Mercer County to that advisory this afternoon if I were to place my bets on that. As far as how much snow to expect, here's what the National Weather Service has out currently, and I kind of like what they have. The 2-inch line down to almost 224, or maybe just to Youngstown. And then your chances of 6 inches or more increase quickly north of I-80. And 6 inches is the purple, the legend, just maybe at the bottom of the screen. Maybe you can't see it. But once you see the purple, that's 6 inches or more. And then, yeah, there could be a foot or more up in the primary, snow belt from Ashtabula County through northern Crawford County, Erie County, PA, and then up into parts of southwest New York. But in our viewing area, I think there is a chance with these squalls that you could see up to 6 new inches of snow from I-80 on north, and then maybe 2 to 3 or 4 roughly from Youngstown up to Cortland. Just rough estimates here. And then once you're south of Youngstown, your chances of getting more than 2 decrease, but I can't rule it out either. It wouldn't shock me if some random streamer came all the way down into Columbiana County and dropped, an inch or 2, maybe even 3 in some areas. Lake effect is such a crapshoot that it's hard to really say who's going to get 2 or 3 inches and who's going to get a coating a day ahead of time. But certainly your chances of accumulating snow and travel disruptions will increase the farther north you are during the course of Wednesday. As far as the NOAA odds of more than 1 inch of snow on Wednesday, pretty good odds. Again, everything increases farther north you are. Here's Youngstown. They have Youngstown proper 80% chance of an inch of snow tomorrow. So that's a pretty good chance. And then up over 2 inches around Youngstown, we're down into the kind of the 40% range. Warren, maybe 50 to 60. And then once you're up north of Mosquito Lake and up maybe towards Crawford County, a chance of more than 2 inches tomorrow, up around 80%. So again, the bottom line is north is where the heaviest of the snow is likely to be. Wind chill's also going to be a story midweek. I think wind chills probably stay below 0 all day Wednesday, somewhere between, say, -2 and -8 roughly. But it's Wednesday night into Thursday morning that the actual temperature will get into the lower single digits. And while it's not going to be super, super windy, it will be windy enough to create these kinds of wind chills here. Based on the GFS model, Western Ohio could be -30. And around here, we could be looking at -10 to -15 as far as wind chills as you wake up Thursday morning. So get set for a real harsh start to the day on Thursday. One more Arctic front will come through on Friday. That's right here. Oops. Let me try that again. Friday, we bob back up to around 20 ahead of that Arctic front, but behind it, Saturday looking real cold again, and that 14 might be a little optimistic. It might only be 10 or 11 on Saturday. Once we're done with that, though, that's kind of the last hurrah of this parade of Arctic fronts. Notice the trend is definitely our friend in the longer range. So as we head through the middle of the month into the third week of January, while sure, there might be a cold day here and there, it's not going to be as consistently or as harshly cold as the air mass that we have around now, and we're going to have around through the first part of this upcoming weekend. All right, I'll keep you updated on social media, as always, on the lake effect situation tomorrow. Be sure and check out my forecast tonight on 21 News at 6 and 11, and Jess will have you covered tomorrow morning on WFMJ Today with the latest on the lake effect, and she'll show you just how cold it'll be as we start our Wednesday.